Hey, Hawkeye fans! Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register, with our usual Tuesday Hawk Central podcast recapping player availability and Kirk Ferentz availability. Interestingly enough, this was our first player availability on a Tuesday for 3 weeks because it was before the Minnesota game was the last time this happened. So because we were boxed out last week after the Brian Ferentz news and Kirk Ferentz took away players. So,
Well, actually, it was the week after Minnesota. You just weren't there.
no, I know. I said Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, like a
Gotcha,
game
gotcha.
week availability.
Yeah,
So,
gotcha. Apparently, not very
yeah. Come
well.
on, new guy. Let's go. Let's get with the
You would
program.
think with these ears I would be able to hear, but apparently not.
Anyway, certainly, I feel like at least this week, like there's not a bombshell bit of news, so we kind of have some flexibility in terms of where we want to lead the discussion. But Tyler, I feel like first off today, I'm pretty concerned about the health of the offensive line. Didn't get a lot of clarity on that today, but I think it's something we should discuss heading into the Hawkeyes matchup with Rutgers.
How does it? I mean, how does it feel not having like a bombshell news for like it feels like
It is weird.
it's
Yeah.
kind of slow. Like
Yeah.
no,
Of course, we could get the Noah Shannon thing tomorrow,
right,
but for
right. So
now,
I might be speaking too soon,
yeah,
but
for now, not much is going on. We might get to one decommit later in the show. We'll see.
yeah.
But anyway, O-line.
Um,
Speaking of O-line.
Yeah. No, I think that actually Tyler Ellsbury was probably one of the more unsung kind of guys, overlooked parts of that game against Northwestern, because to be able to come in a tough spot with Logan Jones going down, who I think has been really good and made improvements since last season, but you can't start a play without the center. And I know that sounds like really simple and all, but things can get bad quickly. And I think the fact that we honestly probably didn't even notice that much of a difference after Logan Jones came out, which if you didn't notice it, then is a positive when you talk about switching a center. And so I thought he did a really good job coming in, and there weren't any snapping issues or anything like that. So it feels like Kirk Ferentz has talked about, he feels like they have more depth of guys that can contribute. And it feels, Iowa has stayed pretty healthy on the offensive line, but it really got tested in that game against Northwestern. And it felt like, they performed, pretty well.
Well, I mean, I guess the latest is, Iowa loses 4 linemen from that game to injury. Which ones will be back? We know Bo Stevens will not be back. That was pretty clear today. But the other 3, Kirk Ferentz saying up in the air. So let's kind of go left to right. Mason Richmond at left tackle was replaced by Nick DeYoung because Richmond was struggling with some lingering injuries. And then Rusty Feth went out early in the game, replaced by Bo Stevens, who it looked like a knee injury to me based on the film. He gets carted off. Feth comes back into the game, but apparently he was in a sling afterwards. So he was obviously just kind of taped together and trying to finish that one out. So those 2 guys certainly, Feth, total question mark this week. And then Logan Jones, had a leg injury, hobbling around, came back very briefly, but couldn't go. You could see it on the film. When he tried to go, couldn't. So he was in a boot after the game. So, will those guys be available? I guess let's, as you say, start with the positive. I think Tyler Ellsbury could fill in pretty easily at either center or guard. I thought that was something I asked Ferentz about today, and you mentioned it too. Ellsbury at least kind of went out there in his first real big moments at center and did a nice job. And they had some snaps on their own goal line too. I mean, think about that, snapping from your own 1-inch line a couple times, and that's important, obviously. So at least that's some depth there. The good news is Connor Colby and Jennings Dunker good to go. So at least you feel okay about the right side of the line currently. How do you think the other 3 spots will line up Saturday when we see them around 1:30?
It's hard to forecast it. And the other thing I worry about too, with say Rusty Feth can go, but uh, Logan Jones can't, or one or two of those guys can go, but the other can. It's just the cohesiveness of the unit, because a lot of it is communication. And if those guys just simply haven't played a lot together as a unit of five, I wonder just how much that could impact things. And also, it's just Iowa's offensive line, and they've improved since last season. They haven't been great this season, but so much it feels like is reliant on them because of how bad the passing game has been. Because Iowa has to run the ball basically uh, to move the ball down the field. Now, you hope that Deacon Hill can improve, and that pass to Caleb Brown. Drew Stevens probably isn't in position to kick the game winner if it wasn't for that play. That was a massive play, and it showed Deacon Hill, in spite of how erratic he can be, he was showing up at the right time. But I was going to have to run the ball to put itself in a position to win. And if the offensive line isn't moving the line of scrimmage like it needs to be, then you go from being a one-dimensional offense to a no-dimensional offense. And that's a real concern to me, as the last three regular season games of the season is, Iowa doesn't beat Wisconsin without the play of its line and Leishon Williams. And they probably don't against Northwestern either. So maybe not so much the health, but just that ability. Whoever's out there has got to kind of come together and find a way still to give whoever's back there, running the ball a chance.
Well, we talk about playing to strengths all the time, and if you look at the strengths of the linemen who are healthy, um, Dunker and Colby, obviously, really good run blockers. Still working, not necessarily A plus pass protection just yet. Nick DeYoung, also much better run blocker than he is a pass protector. And Mason Richmond is a better pass protector, but he's hobbling now. So do you kind of lean into, Tyler Ellsbury also, better in the run. So you almost need to think about, Tyler Ellsbury is 6'5", 312. You put him up front, DeYoung up front, Ellsbury, Connor Colby. I do think that's a recipe for trying to run the ball against a Rutgers defense that is very tough to run against, no question. But that certainly seems to be the way Iowa's going to have to go, because they just don't, rewatching that Northwestern game, they're really trying to make every throw very safe for Deacon Hill. He ends up 10 for 15 in that game for not many yards, but at least the percentages were higher. And at least with Leishon Williams, and we're going to get to running back here in a little bit, at least with Leishon Williams, you're getting at least a couple yards each time because he runs so hard in between the tackles. And I think that's what Jazzian gives them as well. But again, we're going to get to that in a minute. So I guess I'm going to say DeYoung's probably going to have a spot somewhere just because he's healthy-ish. He had that elbow issue earlier in the year. And then I'd like to see Ellsbury out there again, whether that's center or left guard, just because he's healthier. He proved himself the other day. I feel like you just want guys that are, healthy out there for now. And we'll see about Richmond. We'll see about Jones. We'll see about Feth. But I would kind of lean towards the healthier guys at this point.
Yeah, because we were talking about earlier is like you want, if a guy can play, you hope that he can, but at a certain point, if it's detrimental to put him out there because he is so hurt and trying to play through it and it ends up hurting you more than helping you, then you probably have to go with the guys that are healthier.
Yeah, and if a week off helps the guy,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Mason Richmond, we know he's dealing with that bone bruise or whatever still, and some other stuff, but could another week help him out? I know it's crunch time and everyone wants to play, but I don't know. It's a real interesting juggling act right now, and I know we get asked about Dejon Parker all the time, but he just doesn't seem to be in the mix. So another name that came up today, Cade Pieper, true freshman from Nebraska. Sounds like he's the best ready. He's close to being ready to go at guard. Maybe not this year, but Jennings Dunker talked about him quite a bit today. So at least they're they're seeing some signs of depth there, and they just didn't have this depth in 2021 or 22, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, and we saw Jennings Dunker, where we talked to him today, but not that we haven't already been around him, but like he's just like a massive human being. Like his being up close next to him. I know you probably, I think you were around him more of like just hearing what this him eating, what he does to like maintain, and I don't know if you want to
10,000 calories on game days, 9,000 the day before games. Only like 5,000 or 6,000 today and tomorrow.
Only.
Yeah.
That's a light day.
So, and he said he's throwing up, but he said you just got to keep eating. But then he was like kind of contradicting himself too. So he said he was up to like the mid 340s during August camp. And they want his weight at 329, very specific, but 329 is what they want him at. He's listed 320. But he's like, I need to make my weight. He's like, I'd rather die than not make weight. So he's very focused on all this. And someone asked him, like, does everyone like eat during like between series like you do? He's like, no, not really. So he's just a goofy guy, fun guy, awesome interview. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, Jennings Dunker, man, hay bale champion and eater of gummy bears, sports drinks, waffles, bananas, and apples during like locker rooms, games, all this stuff. Like he's piling in just constant food.
Yeah. His legs are like the size of my torso, probably. Like he's just, yeah. That's what I also, and this might be a little more off topic, but like I know there's a discussion of like when Iowa went to a different strength coach, did that affect the offensive line play? And to me, I don't know, maybe there's an argument there, but like these guys are just massive, and it feels like they're as big and strong as they've ever been. Obviously I haven't been around here, but I can't imagine too many guys that are probably bigger or stronger than Jennings Dunker.
Yeah, size-wise, this is as big as Iowa's really ever had. 6'6", 315 plus, pretty much across the board, except at center with Logan Jones, a smaller guy. But if Ellsbury's in there, you really got a big line right now. So let's move to our second topic, Tyler, which is Caleb and Caleb, two deviating storylines. Let's start with maybe the more encouraging or more promising, which is Caleb Brown gets his first catch the other day. You got a chance to talk to him quite a while today. I know the guy has one catch at Iowa for 23 yards, did have one at Ohio State for 5 yards against Iowa, by the way. But what did you learn today from Caleb Brown, who was, basically not dressed a couple of weeks ago, to making the biggest catch potentially of this season so far for the Hawkeyes?
First, he's just a really he seems to have a lot of perspective for someone that's really young, very well spoken. Basically him trying to work through this season of where he came in with a lot of hype, a lot of expectations, transferred in from Ohio State, former 4-star recruit. That hasn't really panned out exactly as expected this season, with him basically just having 2 carries against Western Michigan, nothing else up to that Northwestern game. But to put, all of the fault on him, I think would be overblowing it, because Cade McNamara is out. Iowa's pass game has basically taken a nosedive, and on top of that, the wide receivers have struggled, as a whole. And but he, being able to come in and just such a timely catch in such a big spot where Iowa really, really needed something. And the other thing too is that with just all the Brian Ferentz, with the news that came out about him not coming back after this season, I thought Caleb Brown's answer was really telling about him. He said, it's a tough situation. I think highly of Brian, and I'm just going to leave it at that. This is real life things. You know what I mean? And it's kind of tough to see the way that social media kind of handles it, but I definitely got respect to him. It's not like he's out here trying to wing it or anything like that. I see his intention. So just a very mature guy. Seems like he handles himself very well, and, paid off, with the one catch against Northwestern.
Yeah. Anything else you learned today about him? Like, did he expect to have a bigger role? I think I did my DVR Monday column, and I wrote that he had 14 snaps in Iowa's previous 5 games combined. He gets 18 in this game. Even has 2 jersey numbers in this game. No clarity on whether he's going to wear 3 or 81 going forward, or
No, I'm not sure. And that was actually kind of like a funny wrinkle into everything of basically Cooper playing on, because usually they're both number 3, and Cooper's obviously usually on defense, Caleb on offense, so there's no issue. But yeah, so I mean, he changed numbers mid-game. He was like 81 as a big old jersey, but yeah, like he's one catch in with 81.
So Kirk Ferentz today did say, for you guys that didn't catch it, that bigger opportunity now for Caleb Brown. This is like, you show you can do something now. Hey, we'll give you a little bit more leash. And it sounds like Deontay Vines might be banged up a little bit. So, could we see more Nico / Seth Anderson / Caleb Brown this Saturday against Rutgers? Now, we realize the quarterback situation isn't, changing, but yeah, it's something, and they need to get something in the pass game. So maybe, I feel like that's something to at least be positive and hopeful about if you're a Hawk fan. Is Caleb Brown, could he emerge as somebody down the stretch here? Because Iowa really needs something in the pass game.
Yeah. And it's not like he's, back at Ohio State where he's behind Chris Olave or,
Right.
like Iowa needs someone like him that can make plays, that's dynamic. So I think you make as, I know it's been made earlier this season of like trying to get him the ball more, but I mean, there's really not much harm in trying to make a concerted effort to get the ball in his hands, because you need offensive playmakers. You need someone that can, lightning in a bottle, something like that, to just make something happen offensively. And he seems like a guy that can definitely do that.
Yeah, but should be. I mean, I'm interested to see. That's part of the, one of the storylines I'm looking forward to Saturday. How much more Caleb Brown can we see against Rutgers? Speaking of Caleb's, second half of this conversation is Caleb Johnson, who did not play against Northwestern. It was a bit surprising for those of us in attendance. He was at the game, warmed up, everything. Someone privately told me that they thought he was hurt. However, Kirk Ferentz said he was not hurt, or at least did not say he was hurt. He said, coach's decision. Leishon Williams and Jazz Patterson got all the carries among running backs against the Wildcats. So interesting, huh? What did you make of Kirk Ferentz's answer? Much more clear about Caleb Johnson than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, he basically, I just pulled it up here. He said there's no drama or nothing going on, just playing the guys right now that have practiced the best and practiced best throughout the bye week, and our minds have played the best at this point. It's open competition. So he basically was, based on that answer, it indicates it was like a coach's decision of he wasn't doing something in practice, or, he just wasn't performing well, which I don't know, man. It's just, and Leishon Williams has been really good. He has been a big part of the offense, but for Caleb not even to get like a chance out there is kind of head scratching to me, because he has that kind of big play ability. We've seen him break some of those big runs, and basically Iowa can take anything it needs on offense, or anything it can get, I might say, and to take out, I mean, I would think he's probably one of Iowa's best offensive players at this point, and to just take him out of the fold totally is a little bit, I don't know. I probably don't agree with it. Like, I don't know the whole picture of what's going on, but for him just to basically be left as an afterthought in that game, to me, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, you almost have to think there's more to the story that we don't know, that he, if we could give him some truth serum, there's probably something that happened, but maybe not, maybe they just really, I mean, certainly there's a lot to like with Leishon Williams. I mean, what he did at Wisconsin was notable. He essentially carried Iowa to that win offensively in that game, had almost all their yards. But to give Jazzy and Patterson the nod over Caleb, yeah, they've each had one real explosive run this year. But, I feel like if you're trying to give make kind of a complementary styles, then Leishon and Caleb is your best 1-2 punch, because Jazian is a lot like Leishon in terms of runs hard, not a lot of cuts. Yeah. Pretty much, run as hard as you can and get as many as you can before they tackle you. And Jazian takes some hard hits. So anyway, but then it was interesting though too, Tyler, that I think Ferentz threw in a comment like, "Hey, Caleb Johnson had a good game against Rutgers last year, so maybe he'll be a factor this week or something like that." So I don't know. Another little interesting wrinkle to watch in the running game. But yeah, you would think you would want as many playmakers as you can. That's why I feel like there's got to be more to the story. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and the trajectory of his season has just been really up and down, because he came in after a really good freshman season where it felt like he could be a breakout guy. Then gets injured early on in the season, plays the first 2 games, but misses the next handful, comes back. Was it against Purdue that he went off, I think, where he had a really big game?
Yep.
Yeah, really good game coming back. And then since then, he's been kind of quiet, and then to the point where he's not even getting a touch against Purdue. So it's really, it seemed to be a real up and down season, and not all of it is his fault, with being injured and not even, getting a chance on the field against Northwestern. But it definitely hasn't been, I think, the type of season that fans envision him kind of breaking out and being that clear number one running, dominant running back, among all the other things that have not gone as expected, for the offense this season.
All right, so we don't have a rock solid third topic, but there are a few things that people messaged to talk about, which would be bowl game scenarios. Haven't really talked about those yet this year. Nick Brooks's decommit from Cedar Rapids Kennedy, the old lineman, the 4-star, who decommitted today, right while we were writing stuff. But beyond those 2 things, is there anything else like you feel like we missed here today that we should be talking about that we're not?
I don't think so. Jay Higgins was asked about I guess the profile of his father and
was he? I missed that. Yeah.
On social media, and he basically said he wanted to do an experiment where Jay tweets out something and his dad tweets out something, and they're the exact same thing. And he said he's sure his dad will get more likes or whatever. He was like, they were standing outside of Wrigley Field, and people were just coming up to his dad and not him. He was like, they probably don't even know who I am without the jersey on. So
that is hilarious.
But Jay's having an insanely good season.
Yeah, let's talk about Jay Higgins, because we haven't even talked about the defense today. We'll probably talk about Cooper DeJean a little bit more on our show tomorrow. He's hoping to play some more offense, kind of being coy about it. So my sense is that he would play some more this week. So that'll be fun to watch. But yeah, Jay Higgins, man, second in the country in tackles. Every time I watch him play, it's like, man, that might have been his best game. That might have been his best game. That might have been, this Northwestern game, he was fantastic. He just absolutely clobbered that quarterback a few times. He was instrumental in that goal line stand. He calls the defenses. I asked him today about sign stealing. He's like, yeah, we don't really need to steal signs because we have all the tells figured out on film, and just unbelievable that he's in the Butkus semifinalist. That was unthinkable when we were talking about this season. He'd hardly ever played before.
I think he's pretty clearly like one of the best linebackers in the country. Like, I think there's an argument for him being the best linebacker in the country. Yeah. And it's actually crazy how quickly the narrative has gone from, well, how is Iowa going to replace Jack Campbell to how is Iowa going to replace Jay Higgins? Because he can come back next year. He was actually asked about that, and basically he gave the answer you would expect of like, I'm not making a decision now, I'm focused on the season, all that. But it's like, how I think people expected him to be able to at least competently like move into that role. But like the fact that he is like just so quickly turned in to one of the best linebackers in the country is crazy. And maybe I should not say so quickly, because the process that it took to get to this point was not quick at all, of him waiting his turn, but just in the scope of this season, how, him getting consistent playing time, how quickly he's been able to be so good. And he's fun to watch. I mean, that's one of the fun parts of watch. As bad as Iowa's offense is, the defense is just fun to watch because Jay Higgins, I mean, he's out there calling signals like a madman. I mean, he is. It is just, you can just see the passion and how much energy he gives, and it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And he stayed healthy. Nick Jackson also just playing. He's another one that I think continues to play his best games every single week. And we got to talk to Kyler Fisher today. And man, he's had an impressive year as well. We could see a lot of Kyler Fisher this week against Rutgers. Probably a lot of 4-3 for the Hawkeyes this week. So, the linebacker's probably going to get a chance to shine in a game with an over/under of 29. I guess let's give a few minutes here, Tyler, just to talk about postseason. I think the first and foremost, you and I are focused on, can they make the Big Ten postseason? So the scenarios, again, we kind of laid them out in our post-game pod. This week is not necessarily 100% critical to making the Big Ten title game, but if you do go, you'd like to be 10-2. So the key ones would be to win that head-to-head against Nebraska, and then you need Minnesota to lose to Ohio State in a couple weeks. Those would be the two key results you need. But if Iowa can win this week and next week against Illinois, there are scenarios in which that Nebraska game, you wouldn't even necessarily need that victory to win the Big Ten West. So a ton at stake this week in terms of, where the Hawkeyes go, not only for the Big Ten title game, but also bowl games.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's just more chaos. There's 3 games left. That's plenty of time for something crazy to happen, because if you look at just what's happened over the last few weeks, like Iowa went from beating Wisconsin to, okay, they're controlling their own destiny in the West, to losing to Minnesota, and now they need some different things to happen to be able to get to the Big Ten championship. And then Saturday was just all over the place with all the teams in the West losing, Iowa winning in an ugly game, and now Iowa's back to the top of the West and controlling their own destiny. And 3 games is plenty for something else to come up. And so I would be surprised if it's as simple as it seems right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tyler. It's really kind of a fool's errand to try to talk about bowl scenarios when we don't even have any, when anything could change with the West every week. But a couple of the things out there we've seen most projected would be the Citrus Bowl, which would mean that would mean Penn State would go to the New Year's Six. I wonder if they'd get knocked down to the Citrus, but Iowa in the Citrus, Iowa in the old Outback, which I think it's called something different now, and then the Las Vegas Bowl. That's definitely my favorite at the moment, just because it is ReliaQuest Bowl. Thank you, Dargan. The Vegas Bowl, because that's December 23rd. That would be like total life-changing thing to be done with football before Christmas. That's not really happened very often in Iowa sports writers' life. So any favorites for you? Where do you want to go?
Somewhere warm, I guess.
That's pretty much a guarantee.
Okay, well, then I'm all right. But actually, because one of the matchups, and I don't know how plausible this could actually be, but for Iowa to play USC, I think would be really interesting.
That is a possibility. Because they wouldn't have Caleb Williams, though.
Yeah, that's one factor to it. But basically, just to see the two drastic, Iowa's defense is just incredibly good. USC's offense is really good, and then USC's defense is horrible, and Iowa's offense is horrible. Just to see that dynamic, because they're basically the inverse of each other. And maybe Iowa's offense could get going, but something in that defense, that matchup between Iowa defense and USC offense would have to give. But that's looking way ahead, and who knows if it'll happen. But that's just one comes to mind that might be interesting.
Yeah, just so you guys know, those are kind of some of the 3 of the top prospects out there. But I guess the one thing I just thought of, if it is December 23rd, maybe that limits the chance for Luke Lachey to return to a bowl game. He might need just a little bit more time. So
that's true.
But selfishly wouldn't mind the December 23rd date. But anyway, well, thanks, Tyler. We'll talk again tomorrow on our Hawk Central radio show. For those who don't know, that airs 6 to 7 p.m. on KXNO in Des Moines. We should find out tomorrow. Well, we may find out tomorrow. I'm not going to say we should. Whether Noah Shannon is approved for these final 3 games or not. Kirk Ferentz not hopeful today, but I think that's just him being pessimistic. We will see. They're supposed to have this committee meeting tomorrow. So either they're going to approve it or probably not. So I guess we will see. So we'll have some news tomorrow.
Basketball tonight as well.
Basketball tonight.
Iowa men's basketball season opener, North Dakota at Carver Hawkeye. So
that's why we're doing this a little early. Tyler will be there, 7 o'clock, BTN Plus. And then, of course, the women play Thursday night, 7 o'clock against number 5 ranked Virginia Tech. So from Charlotte, Dargan Southard will be there for us for the Des Moines Register. Anyway, wall-to-wall stuff right now. Check out our coverage for Tyler Tachman, Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register, HawkCentral.com. Talk to you very soon.